Here we've got a little story about Britannia waives the rules, and Nigel Farage has once again been stumped by his own nuance. And this week he unveiled a policy as blunt as it is baffling: a £250,000 Britannia card for the ultra rich, promising tax immunity on foreign income and inheritance in return for what he calls a landing fee. Think of it, a laddie fee. Oh, I'm not shallow. Think of it as a non-dom status rebranded with a Union Jack, and the proposal, he claims, would attract wealth creators, plug a talent drain, and fund Robin Hood-style payments of £600 to the working poor. But there's just one problem: the arithmetic doesn't work. The sums are not just fuzzy, they are delusional, and the consequences would be catastrophic. So what is the Britannia card? Under Farage's plan, foreign billionaires, or indeed anyone sufficiently wealthy, could pay £250,000 and be exempt from UK tax on overseas earnings. Reform UK claims this will raise between £1.5 and £2.5 billion per year, with the proceeds redistributed to 2.5 million low-paid workers. Farage has described it as restoring the social contract. It's very Disraeli in its approach that the rich have a responsibility to the poor, and this would be a one-nation conservative idea. But the problem is, it's all worked out on the back of an envelope by Farage and Tice, and it doesn't work. What he's actually proposing is not a social contract, it's a social pyramid scheme. At the top, a small group of tax-shielded moguls. At the bottom, a fleeting annual handout to the working poor, the deserving poor, and holding it all together, a £34 billion tax hole in the Treasury's books. That £34 billion problem, annual £1 billion problem. The Office for Budget Responsibility, the OBR, estimates that the post-2024 reforms to scrap non-dom privileges would raise £33.9 billion between 2026 and 2030. That figure includes tax on overseas income gains and inheritance from the wealthy currently resident in Britain. Farage's plan would wipe that entire revenue stream away with a single upfront payment of £250,000, replacing potentially millions in tax over a lifetime. Dan Needle of Tax Policy Associates calls it what it is: a colossal windfall for a tiny elite already here. A billionaire's discount card at the cost of national solvency. Farage claims that tens of thousands will flock to Britain under this scheme, but history suggests otherwise. And when the non-dom levy was introduced in 2008, only 5,000 individuals paid the £30,000 annual fee. Why would more people now be willing to pay $250,000 up front, particularly when they have no guarantee the regime will survive beyond one parliament? Tax havens are many. Political stability is not one of Britain's current selling points. And let's not forget the Laffer curve, which Farage himself invoked during Brexit debates. Beyond a certain point, lowering tax rates doesn't increase revenue, it just drains it. His Britannia card ignores that curve altogether, assuming a £250,000 now is better than £1 million in 10 years. It's not just poor economics, it's bad faith budgeting. Farage says his plan will attract entrepreneurs and risk-takers, but it will repel exactly the people Britain needs most: skilled professionals, scientists, doctors, engineers. Why? Because Reform UK's policy offers no tax exemption unless you can cough up the £250,000. Everyone else, even the brilliant junior surgeon from Singapore or the AI researcher from Bangalore, will be taxed from day one on global income, unlike in France, the Netherlands, or even Italy. Reform makes Britain less competitive in the global talent market, not more. Farage has attempted to brand this a Robin Hood tax. In truth, it's the reverse. Robin Hood stole from the rich to give to the poor. Farage proposes we hand £34 billion to the rich in exchange for crumbs from the poor, or for the poor. It's a policy by populist sleight of hand. Promise the poor is £600 a year and hope they don't notice their local NHS is crumbling, their school underfunded, their train line delayed. This is not just social justice, it's a political bribe, a gimmick. It's social absurdity. If this policy were enacted, the consequences would be dire. $34 billion in lost revenue means something must give. Either tax rises elsewhere, hitting middle-income earners, or public services slashed, hospitals, schools and transports gone, or most likely a bit of both. And all this for a scheme that the wealthy themselves may not even trust. No one believes a forever tax break will last, not in this political climate, not in a Britain where even basic fiscal policy flips every 2 years. Farage's Britannia card is not a serious proposal. It's economic cosplay, an attempt to dress up trickle-down ideology in patriotic clothing. It's built on the false premise that billionaires will save Britain rather than being held accountable to it. And it's underwritten by the delusion that a £250,000 fee is fair price for abandoning any principle of tax equity or fiscal discipline. Farage says, I'm not clever enough to understand the criticism. That may well be the most honest part of his pitch. Because anyone clever enough to understand the OBR figures, the behavioural economics, and the fragility of the public purse would never touch this idea with a 10-foot Union Jack.